Hi, this is Chris Young, and welcome to Good News on Tap for the 29th Sunday of Ordinary Time. I've always been a student of politics, and I grew up under the influence of my mother, who was very politically active. And so I was taught to believe, and I still do believe, in some ways, that this particular passage of today's Gospel is Jesus' affirmation that we're to respect civil authority on civil matters and religious authority on religious matters. It's sort of Jesus' take on the idea of the separation of church and state, when he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's. But reading this in the present day context, it seems to me we've forgotten both of those messages at times. Our government, our Caesar, if you will, plays an important and necessary role in our lives. I'm reminded of the scene in that irreverent Monty Python movie, The Life of Brian. It's set at the time of Jesus, and the people are complaining about the Roman Empire. One guy says something like, "What did Rome ever do for us?" And then another guy in the stark crowd says, "Well, they built the roads." "Well, yeah, okay, so they built the roads. That's great, but what else did they do? Why do we have to pay taxes to them?" And the guy says, "Well, they built the aqueducts." The guy says, "Okay, so they built the roads and the aqueducts, but whatever else did they do?" And then someone comes up with another thing and another thing. Pretty soon they've got a whole list of things that the Roman government has done to make their lives better, and they're still mad at them. Now, nobody likes having an outside authority over themselves, and nobody likes paying taxes to an authority. That was that way at Jesus' time. It's that way today. But we do like having roads and bridges and infrastructure and an army to protect us and police and firemen and teachers and all the other benefits that come from government. I find it ironic that many of the people who complain about the quality of our schools are the same people who vote down the referendums when the schools want more money. Now there's the other half of the gospel message that we seem to ignore even more, giving to God what is God's. Are we as stingy with our time, talent, and treasure as we are with our tax money? Do we really not see the value of the church such that we won't put our money where our mouth is? Do we not care that we have a decent place to worship? Do we not care if we have a clergy to lead us? Have we forgotten all the benefits of our local parish, or our diocese, or our church worldwide, in the same ways that the character in that movie had forgotten the benefits of Rome? There's one more item to consider. I grew up thinking this gospel passage validated the idea of the separation of church and state. But the overall message is that we need to be true to our obligations, whether they are secular or religious. In order to do that, we can't always separate our religious ideals from our civil ideals. Now, we don't want the government telling us what to believe or how to worship. That separation of church and state is essential. But when we're rendering unto Caesar, when we're fulfilling our civil obligations, we cannot abandon our moral center at the door when we enter the voting booth or when we write our leadership about issues that concern us. Our government provides more than just bridges and roads and police and fire and military and teachers. It's an essential part of our way of taking care of the poor, the disadvantaged, the elderly, and the sick. We have an obligation to God to take care of these people in society. And that today, our society, that's not the job of the church. It's the job of the government, because not everyone has a church or a faith community to support them. That's why those tasks have become an important part of our government in the first place. Now, it'd be nice if everyone had the resources to pay their own doctor bills, to care for their elderly parents, to meet the needs of all of the disabled. But that just isn't the world we live in. And so we meet our religious obligation to care for people by the fact that we've established a government that meets those needs. One of the ways in which we give to God what we're obliged to give to God is that we establish a government to meet the needs of God's people. Sometimes rendering unto God means rendering unto Caesar. And that's Good News on Tap for the 29th Sunday of Ordinary Time.